It's the Awake Space Astrology Podcast. I'm your host, Laurie Rivers, and I am here to give you some inspiration to get those aspirations out into the world. And inspired, hopefully, you shall be with the Leo new moon happening on July 24th. Going to be talking about that today. Changing up the format in the podcast. I do that from time to time as we grow, as we adjust. And so we're going to keep the episodes a little shorter, and we're going to put the meat potatoes in the patron-only pod. That's available to all supporting patrons at the $5 level and up. Why? Why not? We're going to do it because, I think here on Spotify or YouTube, people are looking for kind of a quick jump in, maximum 20, 30 minutes. And we're going to try that out. So grab your coffee, get your tea, get your matcha, get your hot cocoa, because Southern Hemisphere, I think you're going to be cold, cold, cold with this Leo new moon. Get your Uggs and your Snuggies and your hoodies wherever you are down under. I told you this summer would be wild and crazy, and it's Mercury retrograde. I think we already saw a few things like Coldplay. Oh, that's a fun one. It perfectly illustrates the energy of that new moon in Leo coming up on the 24th of July. If you want to know the house by house rundown, I'm doing that in Patreon, in the Patron Only podcast. You can check that out. And what I can really tell you, and I talked a little bit about it on TikTok already, and in my Patreon chat, I talked a lot about this is about releasing the control of the ego. Notice I didn't say kill the ego. You don't want to kill it. That's a misinterpretation of Buddhist texts. They don't say kill it. They say tame it. And ego death is a lovely dramatic phrase. And with this new moon in Leo, we'll probably hear it a lot. I'm in my ego death. It can be dramatic, having been through a few of those and a few dark nights of the soul. But what ego is the will to survive. So when we're in survival mode, we are in our ego. When we are doing self-defense, we're in our ego. And when we're pointing out that other people are in their ego, we're in our ego. Because as long as we're looking outside of ourselves and we're not looking within, then we're in our ego. Because it's so much easier to protect ourselves blaming everybody else that's an ego-driven thing. Ego doesn't mean egotistical. It doesn't mean showing up for yourself. It doesn't mean you don't advocate for yourself. In fact, having a healthy ego is a good thing. We are vulnerable beings in a physical body. And if we're not learning how to use our ego, well, then we don't survive very well. But I like to go a little bit beyond survival, and I like to thrive. Thriving is so much better. Having done both, I prefer the thriving. So how do you thrive with this new moon? Well, that's what it's about. This new moon is at 2 degrees of Leo. It is in opposition to Pluto in Aquarius, which is retrograde. It still packs a wallop, okay? Mercury is retrograde. So we're all going to be given a chance to assess, reevaluate, and uncover ways we are in our own way in our ego. And that can mean being overly attached to the idea of imposter syndrome, overly attached to being seen as virtuous or a good person, the good girl trope, or a nice guy trope. I don't do those horrible things. Look at me, I'm good. I think we all do that from time to time, but that's something to release. And looking at where our social and cultural conditioning is maybe forcing us to compromise a little too much, forcing us to dim our light and in our efforts to help other people shine. That's rude. It's rude. We're not being as nice as we think we're being because we don't have the trust in the people that we're with for them to stand up in their own light. You don't have to diminish your light to help somebody else get going. So that's what this new moon energy is bringing. And who's it affecting? Absolutely everybody. You have all 12 signs in your chart. Whether you have a placement in the house that has Leo or not, this moon is impacting everyone. And yes, you can manifest on this moon. I think people really don't understand what manifest means. And I'm going to go through it again for the 633rd time. Manifest means to reveal. The revealing happens on a full moon. The planting of the seed, the intention is planted on the new moon. And let me tell you, this new moon is powerful. It is a great way to deconstruct our attitudes to anything that hold us back. So if you don't think you're worthy, if you are risk avoidant, if you are working on your different attachments, right? You're not stuck. These labels feel like a relief when you find out that you're not crazy and it's not just you and there's other people who do it too. It is a relief, but that's about as far as that label should go. If you're allowing the labels to define yourself, you're missing out. We can work with ourselves without shutting down ourselves, okay? There's a lot of people who make a lot of money because they ping your pain and they say, hey, ADHDer, I know you can't concentrate. So here's the bad news that you get to keep believing. You may not have a hyper focus. Maybe you do, but maybe you don't. There's tools for that. I went through them in my summer school with people. There's tools we can use. It does not make you deficient to put an alarm on your phone. In fact, if it's an efficiency tool, that may help you get ahead, okay? Also, we input so much information every single day. How the hell are you supposed to remember all of it? Says the postmenopausal woman. If you can remember your own name, you're doing good. If you can mostly figure out what day it is, I think you're ahead of the game, especially with this Mercury retrograde. So to set your intentions, number one, there's never a bad new moon. There's never a bad new moon. Say it with me, not even an eclipse, unless it's visible. But even then, it's usually an environmental thing, not a personal thing. There's never a bad new moon to set intentions on. New moons are when we do it. The fruition comes in the full moon, which is 6 months later. These are the ones that correlate. So you set your intentions on July 24th, and the fruition comes in late February. Okay, late February. It's a little over 6 months. I talked about a certain person with enlarged cankles who does a good impression of an Oompa Loompa in my Patreon for the $15 level and up. There's some reasons why I'm doing it there. I'm not just gatekeeping to people. I'm not just trying to get people to pay more money. There's reasons some of those predictions are there. I'm not going to give them here, but I'm going to say this is not going to be his favorite new moon. And February is probably not going to be his favorite either next year. You want to know more about that? You can check it out in the Patreon. So what do? I really want you guys to focus on your heart center. So you can do a meditation. You can listen to some solfeggio frequencies. You can check those out on YouTube. Get ones that resonate with the heart center. And if one doesn't sound good to you, try another one. Try until you find the frequency. Don't try to force the heart, but this is a good time to heal the heart. Because a lot of times if you've gone through stuff and trauma in life, sometimes you pour a lot of love out, but you have a hard time receiving. Okay. I'm going to say you're often not pouring as much actual love as you think, because love is with detachment. We're not attached to how people are doing. We're not attached to their outcomes. When you love someone, you see them as they are without judgment. It is acceptance. Well, you want to do that for yourself, because if you're not accepting of yourself, you can't accept anybody else. Leo governs the heart space. Leo governs our ability to take risks, because if you're going to shine, there's usually people out there who want to snuff that candle out, waiting for other people's approval. That's something to let go. You don't need somebody to recognize your talents, your ability, or listen to you. You don't need people to agree with you. You don't. You are not less valid, okay? You are not less valid if you're surrounded by people who don't see eye to eye, don't listen, don't believe in what you want to do, that doesn't make you less valid. Okay. And learning that is an important lesson. You can set intentions to attract people who are like-hearted. You don't want to be with like-minded people. I say this all the time. Like-mindedness gets you kind of in a feedback loop, and it can be unhealthy. Kind of like when we lean into our labels, whether it is a trauma-based disorder or an attention disorder, whatever we find out, whether we're menopausal, postmenopausal, we can lean so hard into that we rob ourselves of a range of experiences. And what is life about? A range of experiences. And when we take life head on by wielding our consciousness, then we don't struggle as much. It doesn't mean we don't have obstacles. It's just you can cut through them like a hot knife through butter when you're wielding your consciousness deliberately. You say, this thing I love that broke. Well, now I have a chance to buy a new thing. Okay. Or, well, I have the memories. I have photographs if it's irreplaceable. Beating yourself up for 6 weeks is probably going to hold you back from a lot of opportunities. The stories we tell are everything. So if you want to know more about how to get through this new moon, make sure you check out the Patron Only podcast in the Patreon. Okay. So that's for $5 members and up. It is a chance to cultivate a healthy ego. It is a chance to cultivate a healthy ego. And that means appreciating yourself, loving yourself as you are, not seeking approval from outside of yourself, allowing your light to shine, understanding that not everybody's going to like what we have to say. Not everybody's going to like how we do things. And that's okay. We're not here for everyone. We're here for our range of experiences. And when we come from the heart center, everything blossoms and grows. That is how you meet this energy. It is such a good chance to deconstruct and disrupt the social cultural patterns that hold us back. Waiting to get picked instead of asserting ourselves. It's not egotistical to put yourself out there. In spiritual communities, it's always very fascinating because you'll have a leader and they don't mind putting themselves out there. But when their group starts to put themselves out there, they'll be like, oh, no, you're in your ego. I've seen it plenty because I've been in the spiritual world since I was a teenager. And they'll always check you. They'll always check you. And I'm going to say the opposite. I'm going to say, show up, shine your light, get quiet and listen to your heart space. What is your heart space telling you? What is your next thing? Don't go out to save other people. Don't go out to try to wake everybody else. That's your ego needing everybody to be in agreement so you feel safe. How can you release your attachment to people needing to be a certain way for you to feel safe? How can you feel safe inside yourself? Those are all really good questions to sit and contemplate and maybe journal about, okay? So journal about, how can I feel safe inside of myself? How can I take a risk, and not just any risk, a risk to you, whether it's making a TikTok or going into a new store you haven't been in, going to a community event you've never been to, introducing yourself to people, writing that blog post, start the book, seek out an agent, start the side hustle, apply for a new job. How can you do those things and feel safe inside yourself and turn that anxiety into maybe anticipation? Okay, let's do some patron shout outs, and then I'm going to round up the episode with a few of the things I think we need to look out for this week. All right, we're bringing some shout outs to our newest patrons, as we do every week, because without patrons, we have no podcast. I think it's super exciting. So, all right, make sure you check the Patreon Monday, July 21st for your special discount. You save on readings with Shelby, Damien, and Susie Evolutionary. They're outstanding astrologers. and you'll save 40%, patrons, when you book with them. All right. These are our newest Patreon or patrons at the Awake Space Patreon. LMAO Welp, Tamika, Courtney, Diane, Manda, Karen, Sue W, Marie, Mr. C Nana 5, Cassie, Rachel, Tammy, Lisa, Amy, Jeff, Julaire, Sherry, Samantha, Noreen, Alexandra, Chloe, Lori, Myra, Dragon, Jenna, Starry-Eyed Kitty, Jenna, Abby, Carrie, Selena, Joanna, Claire, Ella, Patricia, Cynthia, Kimmy, Van, Bjorn, Zach, Amy, Leah, Ivana, Tina, Kita, or Kaida, Alicia, Jen, Rachel, Alexandria, Ashley, Kelly, Crazy Mexican Jones, Kay, Courtney, Melanie, Valerie, Danielle, Jen, Catherine Marie, Elena, Jennifer, Elizabeth, Nicholas, Sarah, Beam, Vanessa, Cameo, Ariana, Angel, Jenny, Witches and Britches, Christina, Ashley, Larissa, Marlo, Mary, Amanda, Emily, Shannon, Fire Girl, Emily, Wendy, Hannah, Emily, Lauren, we got a lot of Emilys, Marta, Gabriella, Bryson, Alicia the Cynic, Megan, Jessica, Maisha, Lori, Emily, and Tatiana. Thank you so much for being the newest patrons. I think you're going to enjoy the content that comes up as we move forward. I'm bringing back some longer patron podcasts, and in August, we're going to beef up some astrology education, and I'm really excited about it. So the summer program, I'm teaching people how to use their astrology. And in August, we're going to get you aware of your astrology. So if you've been wanting to learn about astrology, so we're going to have some beginning reference material come in, some little videos to help you out. And if you're in the astrology crew, don't worry. I'm building up some aspects information. If you've been wanting to know more about aspects in the astrology chart, then I think you're going to really love what we're bringing there. Super excited. All right. Cosmic currents is what I'm going to call it. What to expect kind of this week energy-wise? What does the big picture energy look like? And what can you do about that? And how can you use it? All right, this is the Cosmic Currents segment. This is what it's replacing what's in the headlines here on the podcast. I want to give you an energy update and how you can use it. If you want to stay up to date with my predictions, you can head over to the Awake Space Patreon. These are already in the Awake Space Astrology magazine that comes out every single month, and you can find that in the magazine collection. And I also read the audio of the horoscopes as well as these predictions that go out. So you can check that out in the Patreon. I'll just put the segment up as normal, like I would normally do. I'll put that up for $5 and up as part of the patron only podcast. Alrighty, so what can you expect with the energy this week? Well, it's pretty interesting. So before a new moon, we get a little crunchy because we got to release before we can plant the seeds. Because as you head towards the new moon, we're looking at fresh starts, fresh beginnings. This is Leo. Now, I know a lot of people rag on Leo. It's like pick me energy, and it can be. An unhealed Leo, an unhealed or unaware Leo can be very much a pick me. It can be somebody who is very insecure, and insecurity can come out as a braggart. Insecurity can come out as the cowardly lion. I get a lot of Leo rising clients and Leo moon clients, much more so than Leo suns, because the sun is our energy levels. It's not our personality. That's That's not what that is, but it is our energy levels, our animating force. It's what makes us as an animated being, right? But the rising and the moon and Venus, there are a lot of unhealed or wounded people who will shrink back and feel like imposters because maybe they had a highly critical person in their life as a child or a spouse, or they've been through an abusive situation. And anybody can go through that, not just Leos. It's not just Leo energy, because we all have Leo in our birth chart. For me, Leo straddles the 9th and the 10th house. And this new moon is happening in my 9th. And remember, I'm going through how to deal with the energy in the houses in the Patron only podcast. However, want to hold back if you haven't been listened to. You could be like, nobody cares anyway. Why should I even speak up? I've tried and tried and tried and tried and tried, and I feel like Cassandra, right? Anybody resonate with that? Let me know in the comments. This new moon is a good time to let that go. And how do we let that go? Well, nobody listened to me before, but that doesn't mean they won't now. If I don't shine my light, how can anybody see it? And sure, I'm not for everybody, but there's got to be somebody out there who wants to hear what I have to say or enjoys the same things I do. Like if you really love to dance and somebody looked at you and said, wow, you're a shitty dancer, and you stop dancing because they did that, you let them oppress you. Okay. People don't like the style of music you sing or play. Well, then you're not for them. You know, if somebody's only into industrial Armageddon style music and you're playing jazz, like jazz flute, and they don't like it, well, they're not your audience. So it's learning to let go. That's going to be up on deck, and you may have these things surface. So somebody might come in and say, well, I don't like what you did. I don't like your hair. I don't like your makeup. I don't like your show. You're too fat. You're too thin. They'll have all kinds of opinions. People are going to be opining. Okay. Thank them. Thank them for that. And you don't have to do it to their face. Please don't, because it could start a fight. But inside your head, thank them. Say, thank you for the opportunity, because that energy is matching what I know I need to let go. I can let go of that. They're giving you an opportunity to practice. Everybody wants magic to totally release without any effort. Nothing is without effort in this lifetime. We are physical beings. We deal with gravity. Walking is an effort. Okay. If you want to get to somewhere, we cannot teleport just yet. It would be so cool if we could, but we cannot. So we got to walk, and that is an effort. Or walk at least to the car so we can drive. Driving might be easy for you now, but it might not have been another time, right? So this is an opportunity to let go. And I talked about that earlier. So what are we going to see in the news? Well, we're probably going to see some new secrets revealed. Okay, we could see some new secrets about people in the U.S. administration. These might be doozies. There might be a hacking, okay? And it could happen around the 24th. You know, it might have happened like the day before and stuff gets released on the 24th. There's, I'm sure, some juicy giblets coming out, okay? It's not just hot tea. We're getting some gravy. Okay, we could see some issues with monetary funds. A lot of people are asking me about Gaza, and I don't have any good news for you on that. I know the situation is beyond dire, and I wish I had better news. I want you to remember, I have people in my life who are very, very connected in that space. I have beloveds and friends around that region, and I have looked and looked and looked for better news. I'm afraid it's a catalyzing event. It doesn't make it less difficult, and it doesn't mean we should just shut up about it. But we will also see a pushback against people who do voice compassion and empathy for people who are facing annihilation. You know, now speaking of that, I think we may hear some pushback towards the country that's perpetuating the gross violations of international humanitarian law and breaking the rules of war. Okay. So we may see some pushback against that, or there may be pushback against the leadership. This new moon is setting up changes in leadership that will be continuing to happen between this week and February. So, I know everybody wants change just like yesterday. Change doesn't happen that way. Okay. To get to where we are at today took 40 some years, almost 50 years. If you think it's going to change overnight because people just noticed because it became super obvious, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. You got to get involved. It's not enough to be aware. It's not enough to be a keyboard warrior. You're going to have to show up in your local spaces, and that's city, county, state, etc., province, wherever you live, however you can, because not all political systems work the same. And there are places where being involved has severe penalties. So if you live in one of those countries where you can't just be vocal or make your opinion known, there's other ways. Be decent to other people, be kind, work within the rules so you don't face serious consequence. But there's many ways to be involved to make where you live a better place. What else do I think we're going to see? I think we're going to see more interesting weather. We could see some hurricanes brewing. Or we could see volcanic activity too. I think those big earthquakes happening off the eastern coast of Russia, just north of Japan, I think those may be also a potential volcanic event getting ready. That area is going to continue to be a little more active. So those are things I think we're looking at. So this week, we also have Venus and Mars squared. This doesn't mean it's bad for you. In fact, this new moon is really powerful to propel you into fresh starts. This is the time, if you've been thinking about a career change, if you've been thinking about making big changes on the inside, is great for personal and spiritual growth. Those are all great. On the outer level, we're probably going to see some ish. Okay. On the outer level, I think we're going to see some ish. And that ish could be conflicts erupting again. Remember, we've got Mars in Virgo, we've got Venus in Gemini. Still, it changes into Cancer on the 30th. The things are probably about to get popping. I talked about in the Patreon, I talked about August a little bit, and I'll start talking about that next week here on the podcast. I'll give you a heads up in the Patreon only podcast. August is spicy, so from now to the end of July, August is we're preparing for August. The energy is building up. You might have a few more headaches. You might have some odd aches and pains. You might be feeling pressure. That's all physical resistance system symptoms to the energy changes. So just take good care of yourself. Do your best to release the energy. Just taking a quick look. Let's see. Beyond seismic activity, we could see some big accidents. I mean, Mercury's retrograde. We're going to see people being outrageous. We saw what happened in Hollywood where you had a driver intentionally drive into a crowd. We could see a few more of those things. Remember, people who are in their ego. We could see some people pretending they're supervillains. We could also see people pretending they're superheroes. Whether it's successful or not remains to be seen. I think we could expect some really, really volatile weather. Remember, above all else, I'm still most concerned with climate change. So keep your eyes out for anything from tornadoes, cycling storms. That's where rain comes in and it just doesn't blow out. We could see, again, more seismic activity and volcanic activity in the subcontinent of India, in the Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia, but moving all the way up into the North Pacific. That sector is really, really active. Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, in the West Pacific, all of that is a little volatile. Okay. So especially when the moon gets to Mercury, I think we could see some accidents, some volcanic action, some seismic activity, and it's going to be maybe a little dramatic. And then the 24th through the 26th with that new moon, it's popping off, and it's not just little. Everybody's going to have an opinion, okay? Even more than normal. The hot takes are going to be scalding. So keep your eyes open for that this week. I'm going to end the podcast with a couple journal prompts for you to use this week so you can navigate these very intense, changing times. This new moon in Leo gives us an opportunity to move into fresh start energy. And it's very powerful. There's some powerful, powerful energy here. So here are 3 prompts for journaling this week. When I shine, blank happens. Or when I let myself shine, this happens. Now, if you get a negative, if that's the first thing that pops in your head, like people make fun of me, people are jealous, blah, 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 that's a good thing. Don't leave it at that. If that's what pops up, then what you do is you write about how can you release your concern. So when people make comments that show me they're jealous, I know blank. I know I'm doing my job. I know that I've struck a chord. I know that that's about them. That's a them problem. And I shine, blank happens. If people make fun of you, then what do you know? What are you gonna write about? Well, then I'm not surrounded by the right people, and it's time to find the right people. So if you like to do improv or comedy and your friends make fun of you, or they dismiss you, or they tell you you're not that funny, going to an improv group is probably the better idea, right? A lot of people think I'm funny. Growing up, I was told I wasn't funny at all. And it's great when you guys think I'm funny, but you know what made me really know I was funny? I took an improv class. And my teacher thought I was funny. And my teacher's like a professional comedian. I was like, ho, I made my teacher laugh. That's cool. She's picky. Right? That was years ago now. And she's like, you're so funny. I was like, oh, no, my brother's the funny one. And then she cracked up again because she thought I was kidding. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not kidding. My brother's the funny one. There's only one funny one per family, right? So think about it that way. So for every negative response that pops up into your head, find a way to disarm it, because that negative is a ticking time bomb. I didn't say it wasn't true, but there's a way to disarm it and move into a fresh start. Something else you can write in your journal. When I do blank, I feel alive. When I do blank, I feel alive. What comes to your mind? When do you feel most alive? Now, if you can't answer me, then you need to spend the week looking at when you feel more energized, because feeling alive isn't being a hypo. Feeling alive is you feel connected. It could be, I was watching a video on TikTok, and my friend Rod from Alabama, he's running for a seat in the 5th district. He is a joyful being. He's a really cool guy, and he cares a lot. But he was in the middle of making a TikTok, and a hummingbird flew up to him, and he completely lost his train of thought. You could just see the awe and wonder in his face, like, oh, whoa, a hummingbird's right here. Something like that. Write about it. Pay attention to when you feel most alive. Okay? The third thing you can journal about is appreciating yourself. What are you proud of? Don't tell me you're not proud of anything. What do you know you're good at? If you can't be proud, what do you know you're good at? How can you appreciate your physicality more, even if it doesn't always do what you want? How can you appreciate the body you're in? How can you appreciate your physical appearance? So many people want to augment their appearance today to meet some weird beauty standard. How can you just appreciate where you're at? And if you did augment yourself and you're happy with it, you can appreciate that too. I have a friend who thanks her boobs all the time because she did a boob job. And she's really happy about that. And that's okay. But how can you appreciate your physical self? It's not vanity to understand you are a beautiful person. And don't tell me you're not. Everybody's beautiful in their own way. And that's how I want to leave you this week. Let me know what you think of the new show format. I'm interested to hear about it.